once the ruling members of the CFR has decided that the U.S. government should adopt a particular policy, the very substantial research facilities of the CFR are put to work to develop arguments, intellectual and emotional, to bring the government in line. Many movies concerning blood games have been on the market. We're going to show you just a couple.
Everyone, and welcome to Houston, the Energy City, home of the defending rollerball world champions. This key international battle pits divisional champions visiting Madrid against powerful Houston.
Still has the ball. Moving in. He'll try to come to the slot and shoot. He does. Jonathan in front. He shoots. And it's just wide. No, now the Houston team will have to regroup. Injured on the play is Belmonte, and he's helped off the track for Madrid. High skates by it. Knocks it down again. That's the penalty. The official looking over.
You know how a game serves us. There's a definite social purpose. Nations are bankrupt, gone. None of that tribal warfare anymore. Even the corporate wars are a thing of the past.
Yeah, well, I know that.
So now we have the majors and their executives. Transport, food, communication, housing, luxury, energy. A few of us making decisions on a global basis for the common good.
Team is a unit. It plays with certain rhythms.
So does an executive team, Jonathan. Now everyone has all the comforts, you know that. No poverty, no sickness, no needs, and many luxuries which you enjoy just as if you were in the executive class. Corporate society takes care of everything. And all it asks of anyone, or it has ever asked of anyone ever, is not to interfere with management decisions.
399er. What are your coordinates?
020, flight level 15, we are above release point, Echo Bravo 1.
Move in and check it out.
Roger, moving in. Food riot in progress. Approximately 1,500 civilians, no weapons evident.
Proceed with Plan Alpha. Eliminate anything moving.
Come on, keep digging. What's the holdup? This one's had it.
Watch the detonator.
Fuse. Get that garbage out of here. Move!
In the whole wide world. And who loves you and who do you love? One more time. Yes! Tell my announcer. On your marks. Get set.
Killian, I'll be back.
Only in a rerun.
Go! Go! You son of a Yes!
Two-way catch team in position.
Lockdown terminus impact net.
And now, our first stalker of the evening, a Cadre Trophy champion with over 30 lifetime kills. Let's welcome the incredible Iceman, who slices his enemies limb from limb into quivering bloody sushi, Professor Sub-Zero!
Hey, Killian! Here is Sub-Zero! Now, Plane Zero!
Ladies and gentlemen, this is just horrible. Words can't express what we're all feeling at this very moment.
Beyond this point, you are now entering a safety zone. No unauthorized weapons allowed you.
You always wanted to climb the mountains of Mars. But now you're over the hill. Then come to Recall Incorporated, where you can buy the memory of your ideal vacation cheaper, safer, and better than the real thing. So don't let life pass you by. Call Recall for the memory of a lifetime.
You're the boss. Mars it is. Now let me see. basic Mars package will run you 899 credits.
Go as a playboy or a famous jock or...
Secret agent. How much is that?
Let me tantalize you. You are a top operative, back under deep cover on your most important mission. People are trying to kill you left and right. You meet this beautiful, exotic woman.
Go on.
I don't want to spoil it for you, Doug, but you rest assured, by the time the trip is over, you get the girl, kill the bad guys, and save the entire planet. Now, you tell me, isn't that worth a measly 300 credits?
Pivot and serve and shift and stroke and pivot and serve and shift and stroke. Very good. Perfect form. And serve and shift and stroke.
Hi, honey.
Pivot and serve and shift.
What are you doing?
Some men just tried to kill me.
Muggers? Are you all right?
I sure took.
Sorry, Quaid. Your whole life is just a dream.
Okay, then. If I'm not me, who the hell am I?
It's me.
Get him! He's got a gun! Cut him off, that way! Over there! Hold it! He's over there! Don't move! Get out of
If you want to live, don't hang up.
What do you want?
They've got you bugged. They'll be busting down your door in about 3 minutes unless you do exactly what I say. Don't bother searching. The bug's in your skull.
People have implants, bugs, for tracking by the police. They're already starting to experiment to a high degree of numbers, this system. The Bible says that all people will operate under a marked system in the immediate future, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. That means total control over all economic activity, both buying and selling. It controls the black market. Three aspects of this control system. One, the number of your name. The number of your name is your Social Security number. Two, the name of the beast, all government workers, civilian and military. Three, mark of the beast, those who are given a miniature biochip implant just underneath the skin. You're looking at a needle that is given to be used for livestock, and you will notice that at the end of it is a small biochip implant, and it has a small microchip in it that carries the information necessary for control and tracking and identification of that individual. Presently now they're being used on many different animals and pets. You have a scanner that excites the biochip, and it then reads the identification number, and from there it goes into a computer and reads out the data that is contained therein. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Now the word is in, not on, and it's either their right hand or their forehead. Now the name for a mark means a scratch or an etching, a stamp. scratch or an etching is very interesting in view of how they make computer chips at the present time. All of your computer boards are etched. These boards are generally made many times bigger than they are. Then they are shrunk down by a process, and then the small part is laid onto the silicon and etched out by an acid process. This then leaves the channels for the electricity to flow. Makes little highways along the computer board. It's very interesting, the technology they are developing in lieu of, in view rather, of Bible prophecy. Here we have, they're showing you how they scan pigs for identification, and this way they can keep track of all the pigs and the food they're supposed to eat, and they can keep track of all the animals that way. Very, very simple system, but it's very efficient. And none of these systems come about because the people don't want them. They come about because the people do want them. They're efficient, they make life easier, and all of this is done for seemingly benevolent purposes. It's just that much of this technology and the apparatus used in it are taken over by the Antichrist and used for totally diabolical purposes. Symantec makes a device 1/200th the size of a hair. They can manufacture integrated circuits with electronic device width. You see, that's very interesting that they can do it down to 0.35 microns. That means they can inject it into the human skin with no trouble whatever. Etching. All computer chips of whatever kind, no matter how small, are made by etchings in silica chip. So what we have then is an etching of the beast in the right hand, or an etching of the beast in the forehead. Now the word mark means a scratch of the beast in the right hand, or a scratch of the beast in the forehead. Now it also means to sharpen to a point. A stake was used in military things as a rampart. Was for penetrating the enemy lines. And that's very interesting that we have needles that would do this, to sharpen to a point a stake or to penetrate with a sharp instrument. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're using a sharp instrument to embed it under the skin, which makes a scratch. The number 666 is also very interesting. Comes from stigma, and 666 is a numerical 600, 6. Notice the word stigma is part of the word. Now the word stigma means to stick or to prick. A mark incised or punched for recognition of ownership. A scar of service, a mark. To stick, to prick, a mark incised or punched. For recognition of ownership, a scar of service. The people who take the mark are giving their ownership over to Satan. And that is why the Bible says that if you take this mark for any reason whatsoever, you damn yourself forever and ever. So when you put it all together, we are watching biblical prophecies unfold before our very eyes. And this is all part of the Iron Mountain Report, because the Iron Mountain Report basically is a report on how to control the people. And all of this figures in to this controlling situation. Now the other word used is engraving, and an engraving is an exact copy or an express image. We're showing you how this needle works. Assume that's the skin. We did this in gelatin just so you could see it. It inserts the biochip just beneath the skin, and once that's implanted, you are marked. How do people allow themselves to be enslaved by this system? Why would they take such a mark? Gradual mental conditioning through media manipulation. The rich men of the earth have an agenda they are closely following. It was developed many years ago and has undergone constant refinement as the technology of people control has progressed. This is the conspiracy of Psalm 2, which unites the world against God and Christ by a complete reversal of the truth. Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder. Here's something very interesting found in Spotlight magazine under their Technology and Liberty section called Project Tessria, I guess. Deep in the heart of America's defense and national security establishment, far from prying eyes, congressional scrutiny, and cranky civil libertarians, there is an ongoing project codenamed Tessria. Tessera is a part of a larger and even more mysterious program that's called Mosaic. Tessera is a smart card development project. Supposedly, the Pentagon's buffons are trying to improve on the time-honored GI dog tags so familiar to American veterans. The word actually means four-cornered, the quality of being four-sided or four-sidedness. It also means, under 3, a piece of mosaic tile, a single piece of a mosaic. In politics, an identity chit or marker. In ancient Rome, the Tessera was used to identify tokens. They were identity tokens, rather, issued to legionnaires and conquered peoples and slaves. And anybody that refused to accept it were often branded or maimed for purposes of identification and taxation. If Tessera sounds bad, Mosaic looks even worse. In fact, if the stories about it are true, Mosaic could be the mother of all smart card projects, Tessera included. Mosaic reportedly goes far beyond personal identification devices like smart cards or smart computer databases, such as the one proposed by Hillary Clinton for her national health security identification system. Mosaic is said to be literally global in scope. It reportedly involves the state-of-the-art wireless communications technology and regional monitoring systems to track the identity devices. Who knows? Such devices could even be implanted in servicemen and women. They could be powered by the person's body heat through a simple low-voltage thermocoupling element. They'd be a permanent military security device right out of Star Trek. And that's essentially what it is. It's right out of Star Trek. In fact, if you watch Star Trek and pay very close attention, you will find the agenda in Star Trek. Personally, I'm not persuaded, he says, that smart card dog tags are intended only for servicemen and women. On the contrary, it appears likely that the smart card technology being developed in these shadowy programs could be bad news for all Americans who are already hard-pressed to safeguard the remaining shreds of their personal privacy. There's no mention of the scriptures here, but this is an exact fulfillment of the scriptures. Tesserae is for the identity device, Mosaic for an awesome space-based monitoring program to track all the identity devices. All the people forced to carry these things would be reduced to a vast mosaic, instantly identifiable and findable wherever in the world they may be. Definition for mosaic: the making of pictures or designs by inlaying small bits of colored stone in mortar. A picture or design so made, Project Mosaic, is definitely the mark of the beast. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the hidden manna, and will give him a white stone, and in the stone a new name written, which no man knoweth, saving he that receiveth it. Jesus has his own marking system. It is of the Spirit. Saying, hurt not the earth, in Revelation, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. You see, Antichrist has a mark. It is a physical mark. It is injected into your skin by a needle, and that shows allegiance to Satan. And Christ offers a spiritual mark that shows allegiance to him. The mark of Satan is the identity chip that controls all buying and selling, obviously under Project Mosaic. The mark of Jesus Christ is called the rebirth, or a new heart made in divine agape love. The physical mark is of the world, made by technology and controlled by the spirit of Satan. He is called the God of this world by the Lord. And every spirit that confesseth not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is not of God, and this is that spirit of Antichrist, whereas ye have heard it should come, and even now already is it in the world. They are of the world, speaking of Antichrist, therefore speak they of the world, and the world heareth them. Antichrist does everything for the world. It is a new world order. They are of the world, therefore they speak of a new world order. Everything is of this world. The technology is of this world. All technology of the world is used by Satan, and it becomes the controlling method of the new world order. You will find that Satan has to control everything. Technology is used by Antichrist forces to fool the world into accepting the false Messiah. It is all a lie, a sham, and a deception. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men, and deceives them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying them to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, and which had wound by the sword, and did live. Little children, it is the last time, and as ye have heard that Antichrist shall come, even now there are many Antichrists, whereby ye know it is the last time. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders. Much of the lying signs and wonders are going to be done through advanced technology that you and I have never even heard of. Therefore, Antichrist will use technology to wage war and to enslave and control the people of earth.
In the very near future, we're going to be living in a cashless society.
Cash, the backbone of our economy, right? Wrong. In today's banking system, money moves electronically. When you use your credit card or check to pay for an item, money never really moves out of the bank, only the numbers change. Your account is debited instantly by the computer, or credited if you make a deposit. The automatic teller has made getting cash a lot more convenient, just like credit cards have made purchasing more convenient. However, the same electronic systems that make banking easier today are quickly making cash a thing of the past. Computers. They're the backbone of the cashless society. They have changed the way money moves in our everyday world. Computers that can perform millions of calculations per second, that can store and retrieve billions of records on demand, and can be tied together so that financial information can be accessed instantly from almost anywhere. Not only have computers changed the way the world does business, they've changed the way you and I do business as consumers. How? With this, the credit card. Probably the most important financial innovation since paper money. We spoke with the man who started it all, Dr. Melvin Salveson, the man who invented what is now known as MasterCard.
We needed an electronic system that would permit each individual to access his resources wherever they may be, at one or more banks. And when I developed the system for what is now the MasterCard system, that's what I did. I developed a system so that any individual in the United States with one piece of plastic could access his account at any bank where he may have his resources and use that card at any merchant or other seller in the United States.
The credit card has opened up a whole new world of possibilities for consumers. Convenience, protection, and greater purchasing power. With credit cards, you do not have to carry much cash. Almost everything can be bought today with credit cards. In fact, credit cards have become such an integral part of our society that in some cities, you can pay the parking meters with your credit card. For many people, the problem is not how to get credit, but how to manage the many different accounts that they have and guard themselves from the liability of credit card theft. Dr. Melvin Salveson recognized this problem as an opportunity to take us one step closer to the cashless society. We asked him about his latest development, an all-in-one credit card called One Card.
The one card system makes it possible to move rapidly to the cashless society because now with just one card, you can access not only your Visa, your MasterCard, your American Express, or any other account, including your checking account, but you can access all of these and more with just one card.
It also means we are not far away from the completely cashless society. That replaced price tags.
They're a pain in the neck. There's a lot of mistakes.
People make mistakes. The barcode readers don't.
with a mistake rate of only 1 in 5 million %.
The 90s are here, and we've seen the light.
It shines on bars and stripes everywhere, from Preparation H and pineapple preserves to dirty laundry, lost luggage, library books, and video to go. Plasma banks barcode bags of blood to match donors with recipients. Hospitals scan patients' bracelets for medical history. Dallas commuters pass optical scanners at toll booths without stopping, while Arizona scientists glue tweezer-sized chips to the back of honeybees to track them in and out of the hive. Today, we even stamp torpedoes and tattoo the Terminator as fictional barcodes help Arnold Schwarzenegger stalk his victim.
It's the information age. We'd all be amazed if we knew how much information was gathered about the things we buy, the things we do.
It is battery. What's called a smart card. In limited use by the French, it'll soon be available here. An all-purpose microchip ID that'll replace most other plastic in your wallet, storing your most personal financial and medical records.
Anytime you can see the data, you're worried that somebody else can, and that's why the security issue is so important.
Barcodes are used legally by employers to monitor an estimated 6 million American workers. This Con Edison meter reader in New York is one of them, equipped with his own handheld informer.
It's like you don't have to think. It's your boss. It stays with you. It clocks every minute, every other day that you do.
Orwell would have liked California, where 19 million motorists soon will carry America's first digitized and barcoded driver's license, featuring photo, thumbprint, and a data strip listing violations.
Less than 90 days and you're home free. Take care.
Soon enough, experts predict a barcode on your license plate will permit police to track speeders and issue tickets without ever pulling you over.
Is it a little scary at times to know what you can and can't do?
Not on my side, I guess, because I'm not being monitored, I guess.
On your food, here it is. You'll notice the barcoding system, 2 lines there, 2 lines in the middle, 2 lines at the beginning, slightly longer, no number underneath them. Those are called guard bars. When you go to the shop and the girl goes swish, 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 the light under the counter is activated by the guard bar on the right-hand side, sets the code, reads the right-hand side, hits the guard bar in the middle there, changes the code, reads the left-hand side, hits the guard bar and turns off. Did you notice that the guard bars have got no numbers underneath them? Because they are simply mechanical devices that operate the light under the counter. However, if you look at number 6, it's getting a bit worn out now, my old barcode. Look at number 6 on side B. You'll notice it's the same shape. It's got 2 thin lines, exactly like the guard bars here. And therefore, on every piece of food on your shelf, you've got the psychological thought, 6, 6, 6 on every piece of food. Now they've gone a step further. They are now putting little barcodes at the bottom here. There they are, with an F with a dot and an H with a dot. You can see that is an abbreviation. Would you please notice it's on the side, so you can't see it obviously. We're going to be clever. We will turn it up the right way so we can see it. Have a look at that. F with a dot could stand for forehead, and H with a dot could stand for hand.
Welcome to this short introductory video on Destron IDI. Barcodes revolutionized the way we identified, priced, and inventoried goods. But barcode applications are limited. Radio frequency identification, RFID, has picked up where barcodes left off. And Destron IDI has established itself as a leader in this technology. Through its manufacturing facilities in Bangkok, Thailand, the company produces a range of high-quality, low-cost products to meet these vast markets. Destron's IDI's technology line is centered around 2 basic components. First are the transponders, or chips, each with a miniaturized integrated circuit that has a unique 10-digit coded number embedded into it. An antenna receives radio frequency energy from a scanner and transmits its encoded ID number. There are no batteries to this passive system. Second are the readers that have the ability to send a signal to the transponder, energizing the information chip and receiving the 10-digit coded number in return. The information is then translated to readable language and passed on to a printer or other database for recording.
Based on the reading of radio frequencies from a minute microchip implanted in the animal. In the past 4 years, thousands of animals have been implanted with microchips. The conclusive results indicate that this form of identification is both safe and successful in all species and can be applied to all ages of animals.
The implantation technique in the dog and cat is no different than a routine immunization for distemper or other infectious diseases.
An encapsulated microchip comes to the veterinarian inside a needle in a sterilized package.
They're using it on dogs, cats, horses. In South Africa, I see instead of tattooing the lips of the horses, they are now using microchips. In a program beyond 2000, they are now saying they want to move on with street kids in New York, and they want to go beyond that. They want to give a chip to every prisoner. When I was in Fiji with my wife last year, we drove down from Nandi Airport to Suva, and as we were there about 3 in the morning, I said, "What's that over there?" He said, "That's the prison," said the driver. I said, "Do any of your prisoners ever escape?" He said, "Yes." I said, "How long do they stay on the run?" He said, "Sometimes about 8 months, because their families and relatives look after them." I said, "The day is coming when every prisoner will get a silicon chip in his body, and nobody will get away from the system, because using a satellite, they'll pick him up in 5 minutes. That's how they're going to do it. I'll tell you something else. I have information here tonight. They're going to put these silicon chips into new motor cars, so you cannot steal a motor car. Within 5 minutes, they'll pick it up from a satellite. They're going to put it into airport luggage as well. That'll be good for those of us who fly all the time and lose our bags. Every bag will have a silicon chip attached to the bag, so they will find it no matter where in the world it goes within 5 minutes using a satellite. Now listen to this. The Japanese have gone beyond the silicon chip. You can write this down if you like. They have invented a micro dot. It took them years and years to perfect it. It is so small you can hardly see it, but it's got the facility in it to take all the information they need and just put it under the flesh. It'll be painless, it'll be invisible, and it will sit right under the flesh in the forehead.
This free-flowing stretch of roadway could be a toll collection plaza. None of these drivers need stop to pay tolls, slow down, or hunt for change. But all tolls will be collected and violators will be cited. It all happens electronically in a system designed and developed in Orange County, California by Hughes Aircraft Company, a General Motors subsidiary whose employees. In developing these elements, Hughes has transferred technology from a number of mature combat-proven military systems. The Hughes Firefinder system has demonstrated its superior ability to track incoming artillery rounds and rockets. A similar angle of approach technology is used to track vehicles. The Hughes Position Location Reporting System, PLARS, now in use by the U.S. Marine Corps, provides the technology source for the Vehicle Roadside Communications System. Recent TV provided astonishing imagery from TV cameras mounted on Hughes Maverick missiles. The toll enforcement system is based on Maverick's image processing technology. The enforcement system adopted from the Maverick has demonstrated its ability to locate and photograph a vehicle's license plate. The Vehicle Roadside Communications antenna and transponder were tested at the General Motors Desert Proving Ground in Mesa, Arizona. The demonstration proved that a single antenna could communicate with all vehicles carrying a transponder, regardless of their size, speed, or position.
The government of Thailand was awarded a contract to provide data on its 65 million people in a single integrated computer network. This population database system, the largest of its kind, will store information on every citizen over the age of 15. Each person will be required to carry a card bearing a color photo on which appears the name, address, and identification number. In addition, the card can feature fingerprints, marital status, educational background, occupation and income, nationality and religion, family history, tax return, and criminal record, if any. It is intended to simplify all sorts of bureaucratic transactions, from receiving health care benefits to enrolling a child in school. So impressed was the Smithsonian Institution and Computer World magazine with new identity cards,
which will enable the government there to keep electronic tabs on its 2.7 million people. Writing for the Associated Press, Kenneth Whiting notes that by the mid-1990s, every motor vehicle registered in Singapore is to have electronic number plates and a small black box on the undercarriage. Sensors will be embedded in the street surfaces, and motorists will be charged for road use just as they are for water or electricity, with bills rendered monthly. The United States is already experimenting with electronic tagging to control the movement of released criminal offenders. It involves strapping a tamper-proof beeper to the body that alerts authorities when it is moved more than a specified distance from a receiver in the person's home. This country attempts to protect her citizens from invasions of privacy, and the U.S. State and Commerce Departments have strict rules governing the export of weapon systems and computers with potential military uses. However, there are no restrictions on the billions of dollars of computer technology that is sold by American companies to other countries for their residential information systems. Complains Mark Rottenberg, Washington Director of Computer Professionals for Social Responsibility, the U.S. claims to have a role as the moral leader in protecting freedom and democracy, but we are becoming surveillance technology merchants to the world.
A universal mark and universal requirement for service so that you can be a point of light is also included in Iron Mountain. It's called slavery recommendations, mandatory service, a form of universal service turned to some variant form of the Peace Corps or Job Corps. It is entirely possible that the development of a sophisticated form of slavery might be an absolute prerequisite for social control in the world. This is public service is fast and very rapidly coming to the fore as being absolutely essential for all of our children. President Clinton has authorized boot camps for young offenders, and we feel that this is the beginning of a much larger program for social reorientation for those that don't agree with the New World Order. The America 2000 project, the National Plan of Education, includes mandatory community service. President Bush and Clinton have both called for mandatory community service for all youth, and it will be expanded much like Hitler did. Iron Mountain's recommendations for the total control of people are being implemented, and it will be from cradle to grave. The rise of technology and the space program. Iron Mountain economic substitutes for war. The space program is one of the major ones. It is the development of a long-range sequence of space research projects with largely unattainable goals. Space research can be viewed as the nearest modern equivalent yet devised to the pyramid building and similar ritualistic enterprises.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too.
Everything associated with the Saturn V was huge. The rocket itself, the building where it was assembled, and the crawler transporter that carried it to the launch pad. The fully loaded Apollo Saturn V was 363 feet tall. Its main engines alone generated 160 million horsepower, and its fuel pumps pushed fuel to the engines with the force of 30 diesel locomotives. As Saturn V lifted off Launch Complex 39 for the first time, it weighed more than 2,800 tons.
in the approach phase, everything looking good. Altitude 4,200.
Houston, you're a go for landing, over. 40 feet down, 2.5. Picking up some dust. 30 feet, 2.5 down. Straight shadow. 4 forward. 4 forward, drift into the right a little. 20, down a half. 30 seconds forward, just. Good. Okay. Contact light. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for man.
Across the country and around the world, the Apollo 11 crew were welcomed back as heroes. Before Project Apollo ended, 6 additional flights to the moon were made, and all but one were highly successful. Then ASTP, Apollo-Soyuz Test Project, a joint endeavor between the Soviet Union and the United States. The mission called for a mutual docking and crew exchange to develop the necessary equipment for international space rescues.
That's a good picture, John, coming down. Right, John, I'm not going to wait for Dr. One overboard first.
30 weeks later, after Columbia had been returned to the Kennedy Space Center, cleaned, refurbished, and rolled out to the pad, astronauts Joe Engle and Dick Truly flew Columbia into space again. While an imaging radar system mapped distant Earth, the crew made a critical test of a Canadian-developed mechanical arm that would later place payloads into and out of orbit.
Okay, we copy. Thank you.
Looks like it's a little cloudy out here, Sally. It's a good thing the Sir ACs did that.
As they landed on July 4th, the crew was greeted by President and Mrs. Reagan. Space Shuttle 5, the first operational flight. 2 commercial communications satellites were hauled into orbit, one for satellite business systems and one for Telesat of Canada. Their deployment was a complete success.
The space program in general and the shuttle program in particular have gone a long way to help our country recapture its spirit of vitality and confidence. The pioneer spirit still flourishes in America. In the future, as in the past, our freedom, independence, and national well-being will be tied to new achievements, new discoveries, and pushing back new frontiers. We must look aggressively to the future by demonstrating the potential of the shuttle and establishing a more permanent presence in space.
As of now, 2/3 of the planets in our solar system have been explored, and by the end of this decade, we will have explored most of the rest, including Uranus and Neptune.
The new observatory in space will produce images of unprecedented clarity. Images made possible not only because of the telescope's vantage point in space, but also because it is the finest optical telescope ever built. The space telescope's mirrors are the most perfect of their size ever made.
Skylab was the first test of our ability to operate in a weightless environment, and astronauts found that they could effectively work, exercise, eat, and sleep in their temporary home. More recently, the space shuttle has allowed us to fly into orbit, conduct our business, and return. In addition to providing a laboratory for carrying out experiments in microgravity, the shuttle has also benefited us commercially and scientifically through the deployment and capture of satellites. But the shuttle was designed with a larger goal in mind, to transport astronauts and materials to a proposed base, a permanent manned space station. In November of 1985, shuttle astronauts Jerry Ross and Sherwood Spring tested an assembly concept for construction of erectable structures in space, commonly known as access. Poles were linked together to make a framework, similar to the one that will be used to build the space station in the early 1990s. At underwater test facilities, astronauts can practice space construction in a neutral buoyancy tank. Here, they assemble poles into 5-meter cubes, which will serve as building blocks for the framework of Space Station Freedom.
The habitation module has been planned and designed to provide an efficient, livable environment. In addition to its role as the space station living quarters, this module also features facilities for maintaining health and fitness in a weightless environment. As one of the primary work sites, the laboratory module will be an operational national facility. The lab modules enable scientists to make significant strides in space science, research, and technology. The microgravity environment of space permits scientists to develop pharmaceuticals with greater purity and grow perfectly shaped inorganic crystals. The various modules of Space Station are connected by 4 resource nodes. Nodes 2 and 3 house command and control workstations, which control all internal and external space station functions. Multi-windowed cupolas on nodes 3 and 4 are used to monitor and control work being performed on the exterior of the space station. Today, the United States is well on its way toward establishing a permanent
economic substitute for war has been implemented. The technology developed for the space program has been applied to both military and civilian areas. This is where you get much of what you use in your kitchen and your TV sets. Iron Mountain Economic Substitute for War number 2 was a long-term disarmament procedures. They would draw them out, make them into a ritual. The organization of fail-safe inspection machinery could well be ritualized in a manner similar to that of established military processes. Inspection teams might be very like armies, and their technical equipment might be very like weapons. Inflating the inspection budget would go a long way, you see, to draw this program out so that they could get their other machinery in place. Inspection machinery could well be ritualized. They want to make this into a big, long, elaborate situation. It serves several purposes. One, it serves an economic function, but secondly, it allows them time to bring in their other machinery. On your limited test ban treaties in 1963, you had your non-proliferation in 1968, your ABM treaty 1972, SALT I, SALT II, IMF treaty. The whole thing is a very long, drawn-out process, and that's exactly what they said they wanted to do. One of the most important elements of the INF Treaty is the procedures it establishes in this area, including composite inspection. One layer of regime builds on another to provide a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. You see, so the whole thing is designed that way. The data exchanges required are detailed and comprehensive. The monitoring procedures include extensive on-site inspection options. The Soviet experts began yesterday their comprehensive inspection procedures. So by drawing out the disarmament process, the elite will have time to install their substitutes for war. And that's the real motive behind it. They will also have time to build the United Nations World Police Force to full global power. Slavery is destined to become a classic for the eloquent case that it makes, that we have delivered our freedoms to a new master, the corporate and governmental conglomerate, which Gary Spence calls the new king. We have achieved the Orwellian prediction. Enslaved, the people have been programmed to love their bondage and are left to clutch only mirage-like images of freedom, its fables and fictions. The new slaves are linked together by a vast electronic chains of television that imprison not their bodies but their minds. Their desires are programmed, their tastes manipulated, their values set for them. Whereas the black slave was chained to a living master, the new slave has become a digit, a mere item of production that is expended by an invisible master without heart or soul. Freedom to slavery is a powerful and penetrating call to awaken from an insidious and enshrouding bondage that threatens the survival of the American civilization. The next Iron Mountain external threat, alien attack by UFOs. As technology rose, so did the interest in life out there. Why? Was part of the agenda laid down by the elite, spelled out in the Iron Mountain report. It has been hotly argued that such a menace would offer the last best hope of peace by uniting mankind against the danger of destruction by creatures from other planets or from outer space. Experiments have been proposed to test the credibility of an out-of-our-world invasion threat. It is possible that a few of the more difficult to explain flying saucer incidents of recent years were in fact early experiments of this kind. Let's take a look at Carl Sagan's Cosmos, and we'll find out that evolution is at the base of this entire thing.
In the obscure backwaters of the Carina Cygnus spiral arm, we humans have evolved to consciousness and some measure of understanding. Concentrated in its brilliant core and strewn along its spiral arms are 400 billion suns. It takes light 100,000 years to travel from one end of the galaxy to the other. Within this galaxy,
we have evolved is the keynote remarks you will find in all areas of science today. The consequences of evolution are many and very serious. We are progressing upwards to perfection and godhood. We did not fall. We took a quantum leap to moral consciousness. We will merge with the cosmos. Our progression is part of our natural evolution. Our steps up the evolutionary ladder prove our moving to perfection, from inanimate matter to life, to consciousness, to moral uprightness, and our last goal, God consciousness. The stories about the fall are incorrect. We took a moral leap upwards. In the book of Enoch, it's very interesting. It says, the thoughts of those who dwell on the earth shall transgress within them, and they shall be perverted in all their ways. They shall transgress and think themselves gods, while evil shall be multiplied among them. So in other words, something happens within the mind of man, and the thoughts of those who dwell on the earth shall transgress within them. They shall think themselves gods, while evil shall be multiplied among them. The tribulation period, or the last phase of man's history on earth, man actually goes insane. Thus shall ye say unto them, the gods that have not made the heavens and the earth, even they shall perish from the earth and from under these heavens. He hath made the earth by his power. He has established the world by his wisdom. So God made it, and mankind did not. Mankind goes under the delusion that they will evolve into gods. The occult claims man is at the point of the omega point, and the new age, the new world order, is the order of the gods. Man will enter the new age through initiation into Christ consciousness, which in reality is demonic possession. Evolution has been accepted not as theory, but as an established fact by the scientific world. It is shown that way in your textbooks. It is shown that way if you go to science museums, and almost all of the information coming out of PBS and the others all stress evolution. There is also a growing sense that man came from the stars and will return to them. It is a spiritual delusion. However, this concept paves the way for a strong delusion through UFO contacts or alien contacts, which in reality, these demons, or rather these aliens, are demons. And that great serpent was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Therefore, Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. The word light is a code word for the love of God. To the satanic and occult people, the word light means knowledge. They put knowledge above all things, but love is above all things, the agape love of God. Because all demons are evil, then all the aliens are evil, even though they may appear to have a good agenda. And the good aliens always have the same agenda: world government, a world religion, and a world economy. In the movies, it began with The Day the Earth Stood Still was probably the first one that introduced aliens as being benevolent beings who would come and help Earth and the people of Earth to evolve into a much higher being. They came as guardians. One of the first films to portray aliens from space as advanced saviors rather than menacing monsters. The Day the Earth Stood Still has become a classic. And it's a very interesting movie because it deals with UFOs coming to land on American soil. Specifically, they touched down in the United States of America, or Babylon the Great, which in many ways is a fulfillment of the scriptures, for it is Babylon that has Satan's technology. It's very interesting how they put this whole thing together and started to work on the minds of men.
We have come to visit you in peace and with goodwill.
How do we proceed, Mr. Harley?
Well, we could call a special meeting of the General Assembly, but of course the United Nations doesn't represent all the nations.
Then I suggest a meeting of all the chiefs of state.
Believe me, you don't understand. They wouldn't sit down at the same table.
I don't want to resort to threats, Mr. Harley. I merely tell you that the future of your planet is at stake. I urge that you transmit that message to the nations of the Earth.
The message is that man must put down his weapons, or the entire human race will be destroyed. He must come together and unite. He must unite with peace, love, and brotherhood. He must release the Christ force that is within him.
All of us in the world discovered that we were threatened by a power from outer space.
If suddenly there was a threat to this world from some other species, from another planet, we'd all forget the little local differences that we have between our two countries. So said President Reagan. Here's a U.S. government document. Flying saucers pose two elements of danger which have national security implications. The first involves mass psychological considerations, and the second concerns the vulnerability of the United States to attack from the Central Intelligence Agency. We get the same concept. They have implications for warfare, psychological warfare, as well as for intelligence and operations. Something is happening, and God said he would cast down a delusion, and we at CIA believe that the UFOs are part of that delusion. Here is a briefing document called Operation Majestic 12, Top Secret. It is a top secret research and development intelligence operation responsible directly and only to the President of the United States. Notice it is a top secret research and development operation. According to many sources that are very highly placed, a swap for technology was made for people. In this document it said one UFO had crashed. A secret operation was begun to assure recovery of the wreckage of this object. 4 human-like beings had apparently ejected from the craft at some point before it exploded. biological evolutionary processes responsible for their development have been apparently quite different than in Homo sapiens. This is a very interesting comment because this proves the United States government has accepted totally evolution as the process of life. In a book called The Ultimate Deception by Commander X, which is very interesting reading, although you may think this is far out, I advise you not to laugh about it. In summary, Mr. Lear contends that our government has for the 40 years been concealing from the public a horrible truth concerning an invasion of Earth by EBEs, extraterrestrial biological entities. He alleges that the U.S. government has conducted business with these little gray extraterrestrials for about 20 years, and that we were sold by MJ-12 to the aliens in exchange for technology and to preserve our democracy. He contends that our government agreed to ignore human and cattle abductions and mutilations. And this has been going on now for about 20 years, according to Mr. Lear, who is a very intelligent person. Mr. Lear maintains that the purposes of the inductions are the insertion of a 3mm spherical device through the navel cavity of the abductee into the brain. The device is used for the biological monitoring, tracking, and control of the abductee. Termination of some people so that they could function as living sources for biological material and substances. Termination of individuals who present a threat to the continuation of their activity. Effect genetic engineering experiments and the impregnation of human females and the early termination of pregnancies to secure the crossbred infant. The EBEs, we are pretty sure, come from Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2, a binary star system. This is serious. This is nothing to scoff at or mock at because it agrees totally with the scriptures. They asked this alien, do you believe in God? We believe in the almighty power of the universe. There are many forms and orders of gods. When they asked about Noah in the Bible, they were told that the Bible was an erroneous history book. In other words, the Bible is totally discarded as being nothing but trash. When referring to Christ as Christ Jesus, he said that he was a son of God, but not the son of gods. There were many, many millions of sons of God of different degrees. He was just a higher degree of intelligence of a son of God. You see, Christ Jesus was a son of God, but not the Son of God. And every spirit that confesseth not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is not of God. That is that spirit of Antichrist. These are not aliens. These UFOs are not coming from outer space. They are interdimensional, and they are coming from the spirit realm, and they are satanic. It's very interesting that the UFO, they have one that they found and kept, and they've been examining it for military secrets and technology know-how, that representatives from the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds were on hand to see this UFO that landed. Now, it's interesting because the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds are key players in the international banking conspiracy of the rich men of the earth to take the world. These men are behind the formation of the United Nations. They all call for the UN to come to full global power. And once it does, they will install their world leader. They are secret rulers behind the scenes, and they would jump at the chance for alien technology. With the advanced technology, they could control the entire world. Who could make war with the beast?
UFOs. Is there a government conspiracy to keep the truth from America? Tonight on the UFO Conspiracy, a team of investigators uncovers provocative new evidence.
We're dealing with a cosmic Watergate.
From New York, reporter Sandra Pinckney investigates an alleged UFO crash that the government won't talk about.
I know that I saw night turn into daylight.
Could this startling footage be proof?
it's a very advanced government project, or it's an exotic spacecraft.
From Canada, Russell Rhodes hunts for the mystery man behind these revealing images.
Could you talk to me about the UFOs?
Is Guardian really the deep throat of UFO conspiracies?
The area seems to be a hotbed.
And from Puerto Rico, Natalie Brunt uncovers reports of mysterious underground activities.
People have seen actual UFOs, flying saucer, whatever, going into the lagoon or coming out from the lagoon.
In 1947, there have been over 26,000 reported sightings of UFOs in the U.S. alone. The number of sightings that go unreported is estimated to be over 15 million.
Motivate our government to maintain this alleged cover-up for so long. Russell, what have your contacts told you about a possible rationale for a cover-up?
Many people within the UFO community believe that releasing proof of UFOs would so drastically change our concept of society that officials would have to keep what they know secret.
Perhaps they would, Russell. Natalie?
Imagine the effect it would have on everything from economics to religion to suddenly find out that our global village is actually a galactic village.
Even him, whose coming is after the workings of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders. The UFO conspiracy is satanic to its very core. It is Satan manifesting himself. Creation versus evolution. Evolution is essential for the grand delusion because it takes away the creation done by the Lord Jesus Christ. This is done on the basis of internal security of the United States. The ultimate intentions of these visitors is completely unknown. And of course, if one reads their Bibles and accepts what it says, you would know precisely what is going on. We have three major choices. These are actual extraterrestrial aliens. They are United States high technology, simply derived through experimentation and kept secret. Or it is, in fact, alien technology, but the aliens are demonic. The evidence would prove, scripturally, that these are demonic entities, the advanced guard of Satan, sent to deceive the entire world into a delusion. And part of that delusion is that we evolved and we are evolving upwards and will soon join the gods and go back to the home from which we came. Tonopah, Area 51, Groom Lake, that area out there is just a hotbed for this kind of activity. I have no comments as to what is going on in Area 51, said Congressman Harry Reid after he visited the area. Something is in fact going on.
Routinely gather in the Nevada desert to observe military aircraft, but the government considers their presence on Freedom Ridge a security risk. Robert Vito reports.
From high atop a mountain, you can see it off in the distance. A top-secret Air Force base the size of the country of Switzerland, located about 100 miles northwest of Las Vegas, Nevada.
It's a kind of a diversified test facility for extremely secret projects.
Routinely, prying eyes gather here to look at the hangars, the complex of buildings, the runways, and sometimes, if they're lucky, they can spy strange and exotic aircraft.
I think I can see quite a bit from where I'm standing right now.
The Air Force first tested the U-2, the stealth bomber, and the SR-71 at this base.
There has been a tremendous amount of interest in UFO activity. Many, many books have been written about it. The average Christian, I believe, probably poo-poos the whole subject, but we believe here at CIA they're making a tragic mistake when they do that, because the Bible does mention some things that would tend to imply very strongly that UFOs are in fact real and will be a latter-day day occurrence, just before the end and just before the return of Jesus Christ. As you can see, here's a book for Christians, UFO, End Time Delusion. It is part of the grand delusion that God is going to cast down upon man for their rejection of Jesus Christ in the end. There have been many books written about the government's cover-up of the UFO experience, and that the United States government knows exactly what is going on, and we would agree with that from the viewpoint of the scriptures, that the people of the world, the governments of the world, the highest levels of the powers that be, know exactly what's going on when it comes to the UFO mystery.
On the surface of an average planet, circling an ordinary yellow star, an advanced intelligence searches the skies for evidence of life. Directed by even higher intelligence, machines with brains of silicon patiently sift through faint shards of radio data for the unmistakable signal that will indicate the first sign of life beyond Earth. Now plans for the most sophisticated SETI search ever focus on the Goldstone Deep Space Communication Complex in California's Mojave Desert. It is the site of tests for a possible future NASA project, one not yet funded. The full-scale NASA system, when operational in the next decade, would be billions of times more powerful than the sum of all previous searches. For Carl Sagan, a proponent of SETI for many years, this technical progress has made the present unique.
For the first time, we're mustering substantial, sophisticated, serious scientific searches for extraterrestrial intelligence. There's never been a time like that before. So there is some chance that in the next few decades we will get a signal from some spectacularly distant, spectacularly exotic civilization, and everything on Earth will, as a consequence, change. That is possible.
To search for life beyond Earth has been debated for centuries. Deciding what sort of signal to look for in the skies is no easy task. NASA's proposed search focuses on radio, a portion of the electromagnetic spectrum where nature produces the least interference for any intelligent signal. The plan is to use existing radio antennas and combine them with advanced computer hardware and software specifically designed for the task. Signal processing equipment suitable for SETI is constantly becoming more powerful and more efficient, but also cheaper and smaller than ever before. SETI pioneer Frank Drake came up with a way to organize our developing knowledge and current ignorance. SETI scientists often use what's called the Drake equation to illuminate the necessary conditions for contact and to provide a rough estimate of the number of other civilizations.
84-foot
37 signals that can't be explained.
And these little bubbles and dots are the positions of the 37 signals that survived all our cuts.
Could they be?
Yes, they could.
Extraterrestrials?
They could.
In his office at Harvard University, Horowitz has kept a computer record.
Here it is.
Of his most mysterious discovery.
This is what came in on the 10th of September, 1988. And here it is, an enormous spike, which was 750 times noise.
750 times.
September 10th, 1988 was, on a Jewish calendar, at that point in time, in Jewish time, Rosh Hashanah. There had been a great stir that Jesus Christ might return on that date.
It is not enough for the scientists to hear the signals only once. They have to be heard repeatedly and from the same place in the sky. And that's the problem with the 37 signals that aroused so much interest here. They were never heard again.
None of the cases were reproducible. That is, there's that source in the sky that has just sent us a tantalizing signal. Let's look at that place in the sky some more. Go back to it minutes later. Go back to it weeks later, months later, years later.
And you've never gotten
Never get anything from it. But, I mean, it's clear if we don't search, we will not find. But with Star Wars and Star Trek and all of that. There's a generation of kids that have grown up to think that, well, of course they're out there. And, you know, we live in a scientific age. It is no longer respectable to talk about demons and fairies. It is respectable to talk about extraterrestrials. So
talking about their existence isn't enough for Sagan. He wants proof.
Are we alone? Are we, who have evolved on this one lonely planet, in this tiny sliver of time in an immensity of ages, are we the only ones? And if we're not, what are those other guys like? It seems to me it would be the most extraordinary discovery in the history of the world.
Uniting mankind against the danger of destruction by creatures from other planets or from outer space, said Iron Mountain. The escalation of the UFO mystery requires careful media control, regardless as to who is actually behind it. The threat must also dovetail into the agenda for a one-world government, and it does. Iron Mountain's external threat of aliens is being implemented.
An effective political substitute for war would require alternate enemies. In other words, we have to find an external threat that's essentially very large. It may be, for instance, that gross pollution of the environment can eventually replace the possibility of mass destruction by nuclear weapons as the principal threat to the survival of the species. In other words, they're going to bring the environment up to a point of global threat. Poisoning of the air and of the principal sources of food and water supply is already well advanced, and at first glance would seem promising in this respect. It constitutes a threat that can be dealt with only through social organization and political power. But from present indications, it will be a generation to a generation and a half before environmental pollution will be sufficiently menacing on a global scale to offer a solution as a substitute for war. In other words, we replace the war threat with an environmental threat. Now you know why the environment is on the TVs and the media constantly. A generation is about 30 years, so it'd be about 1991 that this would be brought up to a global scale. It is true that the rate of pollution could be increased selectively for this purpose. In other words, what they're you could selectively find areas where you could deliberately increase the pollution to get this threat in motion a little quicker. It is true that the rate of pollution could be increased selectively. In fact, the mere modification of existing programs for the deterrence of pollution could speed up the process enough to make the threat credible much sooner. In other words, let's have the governments drag their feet on pollution controls or the enforcement of pollution controls. And around the world, that's exactly what we have seen, a matter of foot dragging on the areas. One would then perhaps get the concept that this was all deliberate. Allow pollution to deliberately get worse until it can be manipulated by the controlled media into a world crisis. A global crisis has to be developed. Al Gore, Vice President, very timely book. Perhaps coincidentally, he wrote the book called Earth in the Balance, Ecology and the Human Spirit. It's a modern version of Iron Mountain in the ecological field. And in reality, it's quite an interesting book. You should go out and buy a copy of it. The world government organizations are pushing this. Climate crisis, Emergency Earth Rescue Administration. The people of the earth have a new common enemy, which requires an emergency worldwide campaign. You see, and we have to abandon our armaments to join in a common cause for survival. What did Iron Mountain say? It had to be a threat to the survival of the species.
First able to see complete pictures of the Earth. Environmentalists began to look at our planet as a single fragile ecosystem. Now we are intensely studying the thin halo of atmosphere that surrounds and protects Earth. It recycles the air we breathe, regulates climate, and acts as a protective barrier, filtering out much of the sun's harmful radiation. Last year, an international group of scientists proved that ozone, the key element in this filtering process, is being lost at an alarming rate over the South Pole. In fact, a sizable hole develops over this area each winter. Without ozone, the sun's harmful radiation will destroy life on Earth. A group of man-made compounds called chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs, used as refrigerants, cleaning solvents, and in some plastic foams, are to blame for this environmental problem. They eventually make their way into the atmosphere and destroy ozone. According to Dr. Brian Toon of NASA's Ames Research Center, it is a global-scale environmental problem.
This really marks the first time in the history of environmental science where human beings on one side of the planet have done something to the planet that has significantly affected it globally and on the far side of the planet from where the original pollution took place.
Using the beautiful seaport town of Stavanger, Norway as a base of operations, an international team of scientists assembled this year in an emergency effort to make a detailed study of the North Pole. Most of the work was performed aboard 2 NASA aircraft. This is the ER-2. For the mission, special wing pods are attached containing atmospheric chemistry analysis equipment and a host of other instruments. Typically, flights are made about 12 miles up, along the fringes of space, right into the layers of atmosphere directly affected by ozone loss. The ER-2's research partner is a modified DC-8. It flies at lower altitudes, but has increased fuel reserves, which allow it to cover more territory, even flights directly over the North Pole. Inside, the DC-8 is actually a complete scientific observatory, loaded with sensing instruments. Scientists perform their experiments and are able to map results right on the spot. This instrument contains 4 lasers capable of shooting light many miles up into the atmosphere. The light reflects back to the plane and provides scientists with a cross-sectional map of ozone concentrations as well as aerosols, or regions where ozone depletion is capable of occurring. Initial results from both aircraft indicate that high concentrations of CFCs have been found at northern latitudes, primed for ozone destruction. When combined with high-altitude ice clouds, the right amount of sunlight and confined slow-moving masses of air, ozone destruction occurs. As a result of this airborne mission, scientists were able to confirm the process and predict areas of depletion. International policymakers have met in hopes of limiting the amount of CFC production and recently agreed to phase out its use by the year 2000. Many scientists worry that this may not be soon enough. Again, Dr. Toon.
With the ozone problem, for example, when you release chlorofluorocarbons to the environment, it's decades to centuries before those are removed.
Researching safe economic replacements for CFCs is a vital part of solving this serious environmental issue. Thanks to the intensive work done in the last few years, we know why ozone depletion exists. It is now up to the world community to take responsibility for the future of our global environment.
Two Landsat satellites continue to orbit the Earth 14 times a day. From their 570-mile-high vantage point, they return images like these taken over rich California farmlands. Telltale red images indicate vigorous vegetation growth. The state of California is using Landsat imagery to inventory and map its irrigated cropland.
Ecology, the balance of nature, is important to all life. One of the tools we can use to monitor this balance of nature on Earth is the satellite. Satellites can be used to observe our planet from a high vantage point. A NASA film called Remote Possibilities tells the story.
From far out in space, the Earth appears serene and beautiful, displaying no hint of our crowded planet's many problems. As we have used and changed our planet, we have become aware that in many ways we are exhausting it. Exhausting our food supplies, our sources of energy, our natural lands, exhausting the potential of even the once seemingly limitless oceans. Management of Earth resources is at a critical stage. It has never been more important that we understand the environmental relationships of our planet. Scientists are striving to apply the technology of the space age, the quest for more and better information about these complex relationships. In 1972, a new kind of satellite left the launch pad and rose to an altitude of 910 kilometers from Earth. There it settled in a circular orbit around the planet. This satellite, called Landsat, opened a new era of Earth resource management.
One substitute for war has then been found. The Iron Mountain agenda is being carried out. The objectives of the EcoScan? Well, the UN will end up with control over all the land, and ownership of the land will be held by the rich men. There is arising a crisis of worldwide proportions involving developed and developing countries alike, the crisis of the human environment. The process of compromise of national interests will, of course, have to take place. International economic security is inconceivable unless related not only to the world's environment, but also to the elimination of the threat to the world's environment. Well, the only major threat is private property ownership and private property rights, where people can do as they want. Let us also think about setting up within the framework of the United Nations a Center for Emergency Environmental Assistance. You can see how they're raising this thing up to an emergency status, an emergency level. And that's what Mikhail Gorbachev said in December 8th, 1989, in a speech to the United Nations. The United Nations will be the controller of all the lands in the world through their various ecological, environmental organizations that they are in the process of setting up. In fact, the Rio Earth Summit was for that specific reason. Now, it's owned by the rich men. That's who owns the United Nations. That's who actually runs it. Eco foundations of the World Wildlife Fund, Heritage Trust, Nature Conservancy, etc. There's a lot of them, and you have many UN organizations. And the rich men of the earth sit on the boards of directors on all of these groups. These groups are buying up huge chunks of private land for conservation, they say, and to preserve the earth. And of course, all of it is to be owned by the rich men. And what they cannot purchase by normal means will be taken under zoning controls, DNR regulations, or other land grab means via governmental authority and regulation. All land will be under strict eco controls because, after all, we are now involved in the middle of an eco emergency, and it's nothing but a scam. It's really a debt for land swap is another part of it. The international bankers loan and control the monies to all the countries, and through interest have driven them into huge debt status. The debt of the United States is in the trillions. The bankers then come forward with a new plan. They will take the nation's land, and then they will cancel the debt of that nation. It is called a debt for land swap. This land will be held by a World Conservation Bank, owned, of course, by the rich men of the earth. They will then own all the land, all the resources, all the food. They become the absolute masters, and all the people become the slaves. It's a perfect scam. It's a perfect system. Because the eco threat is now global, then obviously it can only be controlled by a global authority. And guess who that is? Why, of course, it's the United Nations. The second one is the universal health care, was a recommendation of Iron Mountain. Universal health care for all. It's an economic substitute for the war economy. It's very interesting how all of this works. Health. Drastic expansion of medical research, education, and training facilities, hospital and clinic construction, the general objective of complete government guaranteed health care for all. That's exactly what Clinton has introduced to the American people. He announced a universal health care and mandatory insurance program. And so they're putting everything in place exactly as Iron Mountain told them to do. It's universal, and you cannot exempt yourself from it.
Dr. Jerry Falwell's video, A Prescription for Disaster, goes into this health plan.
Are you aware that it will be against the law to go outside the Clintons' health care insurance plan to buy your own private insurance? Did you know that the government, not you or your doctor, the government will determine what medical services are necessary for your treatment? I'm sure you did not read this in your newspapers. Under H.R. 3600, it will be against the law to obtain a doctor of your choice, even if he or she has been your doctor for many years, if that doctor is outside your government-approved region. How about this one? The government will actually ration health care according to, listen to this, global budget constraints. Under Hillary's H.R. 3600, it will also be against the law to pay your doctor extra money for any services not covered by Bill and Hillary's plan. Did you hear anyone on the network news tell you that you will have to wait your turn for an operation, even if you and your doctor feel it is life-threatening? If the government bureaucrat in your region disagrees with your doctor, the government bureaucrat overrules. Government officials, like the president, senators and congressmen, their families, will not be required to be a part of this plan until 1998, and possibly never. Here it is, the Health Security Act, H.R. 3600, Bill and Hillary's socialized medicine plan for America. All 1,364 pages. In the next few weeks and months, your congressmen and senators and mine will be considering voting Bill and Hillary's health care plan into law. Once it becomes law, there'll be no turning back. America will have entered socialism. America's health care system, as we know it today, will never again be the same.
The quality of health care will come tumbling down, because ultimately you've got the president that's promising a very expensive list of benefits. He doesn't have near enough money coming in to pay for it. And so these alliances will have to regulate prices, and that means they'll roll back the prices. Some people say, that's great. Well, price controls don't work. Especially they don't work unless they also control the number of times that you see the doctor or see the hospital. And that means rationing of care. And the people who will be hit probably first and foremost in rationing of care will be the elderly.
On page 224, we find out that the law will prevent you from going outside the system to buy basic health insurance coverage, which you think is better, even though you have already paid the mandatory government premium. On pages 90 and 91 of this book, I find out that the bill guarantees you a package of medical services, but you cannot have them unless they are deemed necessary and appropriate by government bureaucrats of the National Health Board, the world's largest bureaucracy. You and I will be given a card, a government-issued ID that identifies your health plan, your family health plan, your medical records, and that of your family. And this card could also access a national electronic data network which could hold any relevant patient information. Despite the plan's safeguards on privacy, The card creates ample opportunity for government tracking and the invasion of individual and family privacy, just like they did in Russia and now do in Cuba and China and Eastern Europe in many cases. On page 236, we find that it will be against the law to pay your doctor directly for any services. He must be paid only through the plan. This means if you are put on a waiting list, you cannot pay to get your treatment sooner. You must wait your turn, even if it results in further deterioration of your medical problem. On page 15, the law will make you get health care through your alliance. You must enroll in one of the limited number of health plans offered by the regional alliance where you live. And then on pages 144, 145, 146, if you fail to enroll, or the plan you choose is oversubscribed, alliance officials will assign you to one of their choosing. In other words, you can get stuck with a plan that you do not like. On pages 113, 137, doctors beware. Automatic, mandatory, non-discretionary reductions in payments to doctors, nurses, and hospitals will be implemented to assure, I'm quoting, that expenditures will not exceed budget, end quote.
The heavy hand of government says you must participate, you must be in this alliance, you must buy from the government and buy what is allowed under this structure. It's a very heavy-handed, socialistic, I would say, government takeover of the healthcare industry.
The motive for universal health care: to force a national ID system on Americans as a prelude to the taking of the mark, to place the government in a position of being able to murder millions by simply rationing health care for the rollback that is required in the UN Global 2000 report.
New educational system to bring in globalism under the United Nations, UNESCO, congressional record, the great conspiracy to destroy the United States, education for freedom and world understanding. You see, all of this is designed to bring us into a world system, a global system under the control of the United Nations. The second manifesto of the U.S. Office of Education, the implementation of the program of surrender through education. In other words, they destroy Americans' national pride and put us under the United Nations. And the NEA is leading in this. They even say it themselves, teaching about globalism and the world system. They say enduring peace cannot be attained until the nation states surrender to a world organization. This was found out during the Reese Committee hearings in Congress. Putting the evidence together, we conclude the NEA has been an important element in the tax-exempt world to indoctrinate American youth with internationalism, which is synonymous with a lot of communist, illuminist, whatever you want to call it. The Iron Mountain agenda is being carried out. Outcome-based education, the developing of leaders for restructuring the schools, change agents. Parents are beginning to get upset, but they are not putting it together. American 2000, a national strategy to change every nation, every family. Everything is going down exactly as Iron Mountain said it should. Global education is nothing more than a promotion of the United Nations and to destroy the Constitution of the United States, to bring us out from the Constitution and to merge us into the UN. That's what they're going to do. To improve learning and teaching by providing a national framework for educational reform, to promote research, consensus building, and systematic changes needed to ensure, you see, everything has to be changed. Guess where the changes all lead to? And guess who's behind it? If you look, Robert Mueller, former UN Secretary General to the UN, member of the Planetary Citizens, wrote the Global Core Curriculum. Marilyn Ferguson, the Aquarian Conspiracy, New Age. This is all being integrated into the educational system of America. And it's called America 2000. And it is extremely subversive. The national and international power play for education. It's going to go through because God has decreed it will go through. And UNESCO is behind it. Gorbachev, we parted with the old world, rejecting it once and for all. We are moving towards a new world, the world of communism. We shall never depart from it.